Hey guys, welcome to Brain Trash. My name is Maria and I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner.
And I'm Tabitha. I'm also a psychiatric nurse practitioner.
And this is our podcast where we get to talk about all the weird and fascinating things about mental health, about psychiatry, about the brain, about why our mental health system in America currently sucks, and throw it on the table with no bullshit. So let's just get into some interesting things today about medications. We've talked a lot about neurodivergence. We've talked about connective tissues. We've talked about some of the executive orders going on in the past couple of weeks. And today we just want to kind of do a fun vibe on medication. So let's talk about if medications were in the high school yearbook, what would that look like? Who's winning what? All the awards. All right, first up today, most likely to succeed. Who's your vote, Tabitha?
I mean, as long as they're not bipolar, Lexapro or Zoloft.
Why is Lexapro your favorite?
I actually think Zoloft might be my favorite. I feel like with a very close following of Lexapro. I don't know, just people do well on it.
Overall? Okay. I would say Abilify. I think you probably have kind of a higher population of just adults that you see. And I've spent a long time seeing children. And I think I've tried a lot of the SSRIs with kids, and sometimes they're coming to me after being on everything and nothing worked. And then we put in some Abilify and it's magic. And I always tell people within 4 days, you're going to be in a better spot. Unless you get akathisia, meaning that awful restlessness that makes you want to die, then it's not really going to succeed anymore. You're probably just going to be on your way to, urgent care or back to your doctor to beg you to get off of it. But overall,
I feel like I would start there more often if people weren't so fucking scared because it's called an antipsychotic, right? I hate how we name medications in psychiatry. I think that the groupings are kind of fucked. And so people end up being like, oh my gosh, that's really scary. I don't want to take that.
You know what? He's most likely to succeed, but most set up to fail. So Abilify, you got my vote. All right. Best bromance.
Probably an SSRI and wellbutrin, because people are like, oh man, I can't get an erection or I can't have an orgasm. And we're like, here's your best friend, wellbutrin, and then everything's fine.
How often do you see that actually works?
I mean, a good bit, but here's the thing, is I also think that time helps. And so the amount of time it takes somebody to say something about it, start wellbutrin, and then see a difference, I think also could just be that they are further away from the start of taking the SSRI, which often helps.
Yeah. I actually really like the combo in general because I think the Wellbutrin hits the dopamine and the norepinephrine, and then the Lexapro or whatever the SSRI is already doing the serotonin. So you get the whole spectrum of all of the chemicals for depression. So personally taking that combo, I love it. Would always.
Especially for the emotional blunting kind of that people see with higher doses of SSRIs. I think the Wellbutrin offsets that.
Yeah. So what that's caused by is when we take an SSRI for a long time and that serotonin goes up, eventually what happens is dopamine starts decreasing. So then we have more of blah, I don't feel good. I don't have any motivation. And we see kind of the increase in all of the low dopamine symptoms. So putting in a little Wellbutrin there kind of corrects that and keeps the balance in place so we don't have this downstream decrease, which I've always loved. Also another contender, guanfacine and Adderall. It's a fave being in child psych. Guanfacine chilling out the norepinephrine and keeping everything super regulated, helping you sleep good, helping the impulse control go down, the hyperactivity. And then you put that stimulant in and it's the inattentiveness goes away and you just have this magical combination. When it works, it really fucking works.
I also really like this for adult men. I
Adult
find
men.
that women don't really love the guanfacine or clonidine situation, but adult men are just wow, this is amazing.
Interesting. And I think a lot of adult men have a lot more of that external hyperactivity component and impulsivity component, which the guanfacine helps more with. And women have that more internal restlessness, which it doesn't do as much for. But I do love guanfacine. So we talked a little bit about boners getting ruined. On that note, who is most likely to fuck up your sex life?
Best way to ruin a boner is Paxil for sure.
Yes, and for women too. If you want to prolong an orgasm, never orgasm again, take some Paxil. I've actually only ever prescribed Paxil to people who have hypersexuality, not from bipolar, to kill their boners. I don't understand why other people would start it. Like, why?
I've had people just be like, my entire family does great on Paxil. I want to take Paxil. And I'm like, are you sure about that?
Do you want to ever have sex again? Basically.
Right. Well, and I mean, here's the thing is that if that is the only thing that makes somebody want to live, I don't know, like have an orgasm or want to live.
Yeah.
That could be different for different people in terms of priorities between the two, but you know.
And not necessarily everybody is totally going to get killed by being on, an SSRI for their sex drive. But there is something that people don't talk enough about. And it's like post SSRI inability to ever have like sexual pleasure again. Have you heard of that? PSSSR?
I have heard of it before, but I've not ever like seen it in practice.
I've had like people hit me up a lot on TikTok for it. So it's called post SSRI sexual dysfunction. There are people who say like it is irreversible, especially like with men who experience this. So they take an SSRI for a short period of time. And even after getting off of it, they still encounter abilities like an inability to get an erection or to have sex or enjoy sex, which is wild. And it's like not often talked about. And I think a lot of people just kind of like stick men on these medications and are like, nah, you'll be fine. And then it doesn't happen like that. But there's like a huge like movement on Reddit about this too.
I feel like most of the time, if somebody is like complaining that it is so distressing that they're having sexual side effects and we end up stopping the SSRI, like they're like, oh yeah, no, it's like 100% the moment I stopped. And I'm like, cool, good for you. Here's the other thing too, though. I feel like a big part of this also depends on the way that the provider presents this information. I've had people tell me like, oh yeah, the first time I ever took an SSRI, my provider was like, oh yeah, you might have sexual side effects. And they were like, what do you mean sexual side effects? And the provider's like, well, when you're like about to orgasm and you're like, and then you just can't. I'm like, that person is visualizing in their mind their psychiatric provider making a face of pretending to orgasm. Like nobody's gonna be okay with that. And so I feel like sometimes the way that we approach it too, like contributes to that because it's, I don't know, a topic not a lot of people like to just talk about, but I'm always like, how's your boner? Like I just throw it out there. Like,
yeah, that's actually a good point. I saw something on like a Facebook group the other day about like, I don't know, there was like a nursing school program that was talking about sexual health and people were like panicking on it, being like, we shouldn't be talking about these things. Oh my God, why are we letting nursing students talk about orgasms and about like all of these things? And it's like, but we are the people who have to have these conversations with the patient and like have to ask the patient, like, do you have any like sexual discomfort? Do you have any like differences in like your sexual experience or your masturbation or like whatever? And if you can't talk about those things, then what are you supposed to do? Like, how are you going to assess the side effects? Oh, wait, we just don't. And then the patient feels awkward being like, hello, I cannot get a boner with my partner. And I mean, that's hard to bring up.
I've had people like trying to say it and I know what they're going to say, but I like have to kind of lead the questions so I can tell they're embarrassed to talk about it. And then leading them to a place where it's like, without saying it, being like, yeah, that's my fault,
Yeah. Yeah. And then
actually not a you problem.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like, I think gaslighting that goes into that kind of like, well, it's not that big of a deal. It's just kind of a side effect that can happen. Like it can't be that bad. Just like try harder. It's like, I'm not sure that's like the solution. Or like,
I also think like people's sexual well-being and like their intimate relationships and stuff is like really important to their mental health. Right. So like, I mean, obviously some people are asexual or it doesn't play that big of a role in their mental health. But if this is a way that you get to connect with your partner and like, if your partner can tell that you're not having a good time and they don't want to engage in these behaviors with you if you're not having a good time, that can get in the way of that, right? So there's a lot of different ways that it can impact people, not just of like, oh, I can't get a boner. It's like, there's other considerations too. And again, it's one of those risk versus benefit things. Like,
yeah. And like, I think the post SSRI sexual dysfunction is a lifetime thing where you're not able to orgasm like for the rest of your life when people are on that. So like, there's like very minimal research. I've looked at some of it, but this is maybe like one of the things that should be researched if they want to focus on men's research is like how to fix that. If that has happened and people have damage, then maybe, I don't know, somebody should look at helping them because that's traumatizing.
Have you read it all? Like, what's the underlying mechanism of that? Like, what's the reason?
I don't know, dude. That would be something to like look into and maybe have an episode on. But it's like there's a few articles on it. And I remember like getting a couple questions on it and I really looked into it and I was like, holy crap, this is really a thing. And there's a lot of people on Reddit who've experienced that and like total like just decimation of their ability to have sex after that. So we should look at that because I'm interested. Because there has to be some way to to help, right? Like, I don't understand. Do you know what I mean? Like, wouldn't there be like a point where you'd be like, I have this hot new partner, or like, I'm just like really feeling it? I'm looking really quick at like the mechanism, and essentially it's like desensitization of the serotonin influences sexual function in general, reduced dopamine function, norepinephrine dysfunction. So like the norepinephrine is what kind of causes the erectile dysfunction. And then the hormone disruptions on top of that, like the prolactin levels can cause low testosterone. Okay, so like nerve damage and nerve desensitization in genital tissue, genital numbness, a hallmark symptom of PSSD. So that's what they think is that it would lead to nerve desensitization in genital tissue and altered nitric oxide signaling that would impair blood flow. And then sometimes there's like thoughts about like epigenetic changes that would affect hormones. It's just really interesting that it would like impair parasympathetic activity. Parasympathetic nervous system should be on in order to orgasm because you need to be relaxed. So interesting. It's thought that like adding bupropion or Buspar could be beneficial, but I would imagine people who have had their sex lives ruined by SSRIs would not want to be taking any more medications.
Right.
But yeah, I would say, okay, SSRIs are going to be right on board here to ruin your sex life. Most likely to get canceled.
100% benzos. Like,
Yeah.
no question.
Do you want to cancel benzos?
Here's the thing. Benzos are amazing. They do their job. They're good at what they do. And they also blow in a lot of ways. I think that if you're taking it, once a year to have a traumatic dental procedure, cool, go for it. Or to get your blood drawn because you have needle phobia or something like that. But, I mean, I could go real far into like how much I really hate people being on like TID benzos 3 times a day, every day for years and years before somebody says, hey, this actually isn't a great idea.
Agreed. I think funerals, airplanes, phobias, things like that totally like has a place, totally beneficial. But when we're looking at like daily use, like we have now put on a Band-Aid that can harm people. And if you abruptly forget your benzos, which I don't think you would because you'd be having withdrawal symptoms, but you will have withdrawal symptoms is kind of like the issue there. So there are reasons that prescribers don't want to do benzos, being that like there was a huge boom that people put a lot of people on benzos, being that like especially housewives who were anxious and probably in domestic violence situations. And then they were on benzos for their lives and hooked on them. And we see now that there are memory issues that come from them. So there are strong reasons we want to cancel the benzos over here in the psychiatry realm. So if you ever wondered.
Literally every piece of reputable text that gives guidance on medications is going to tell you like if it is regular use, 2 weeks is the longest. And then after that, they need to be tapered off. So these humans that are being put on 3 times daily benzos for years and years, it's not, necessarily their own fault that this is happening. But I think that kind of prescribing needs to get canceled like ASAP.
Would agree.
All right. Most likely to sleep through your alarm.
I feel like there's a couple. Trazodone could be one, but I'm going to say Seroquel is going to be kind of our hottest answer for the most sedating out of all of them. Once you hit like 100 milligrams, you're at a pretty high dose of like, I'm going to go to sleep. Let me get some sleep. But also olanzapine's kind of nice, but he's not going to win this one. Seroquel's still going to win it. She's the winner. Yeah, I feel like Seroquel fucking knocks you out.
Yeah. Most people that talk about morning drowsiness is Seroquel. I mean, you get followed by Trazodone, but Seroquel for sure.
And like if you get over 200, Seroquel's not a contender anymore. But under 200, she's a contender.
And that histamine all in the right ways.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Most likely to be your snack time, buddy.
Oh my God, olanzapine forever. Like this could also be like a contender for best bromance is like olanzapine and either GLP-1 or metformin, because they should be like BFFs and like staying together forever. Because otherwise you're gonna be kind of having the munchies. So if you've ever like smoked some weed and been like, man, I could just have so many snacks right now. Olanzapine's like that on steroids. Like 20 pounds is coming up real quick. You want to like be able to like eat for the Super Bowl and you got a buffet coming up, you really want to try everything. Olanzapine's your girl.
I like how they're all gendered. Like Seroquel is a girl.
It's a girl, Sarah. Our next one needs to have like maybe she can be like non-binary or they.
Yeah.
They're not okay. We got they pronouns for our next little homie coming up.
Yeah.
Most likely to ruin your family road trip.
Also a few really great contenders here because I feel like a lot of things could ruin your road trip if you didn't have them. Number one, though, I'd probably say an SNRI, something like Effexor or Prestige, right? If you don't have those and you're like super short half-life, 6 to 8 hours, your road trip is going to be fucked, like pretty short into that. And then everybody can just like have a meltdown together, you know, like yelling in the RV at each other nonstop until, you know, for the foreseeable future. I think also, obviously, another good one would be something like stimulants. If you're having to drive the family vehicle on a road trip and you don't take your meds, you might get in an accident.
You know, safe point to point out that like people who are ADHD and not taking their stimulants might get into more car accidents. I personally have crashed 7 out of 8 vehicles that I've ever driven. Not all my cars, really unfortunate. One of them is I'm still paying on it, and then, you know, that's a problem. Anyways, but
yeah, I've only crashed cars unmedicated as well. So, you know, there's tons of research, and I feel like that could be an entire episode in and of itself too, like the risk for car accidents, the risk for substance use disorders, the risk for teenage pregnancy, all of these things.
Drowning. I do remember like one of my first job interview ever as a psych NP, like I had a medical doctor who asked me like, how do you feel about stimulants on the weekends? And I was like, you know, I think it's okay. It's okay if people want to take breaks. And he was like, breaks are never okay. And I was like, oh, okay, educate me. So he was like, imagine if you were a child and you took a break and you were swimming in a pool and you had ADHD and you forgot where the ladder was and you didn't get out and you drowned. And I was like, okay. And like now being late diagnosed with ADHD and swimming, I don't think I've ever forgotten where the ladder was. Or like, what kind of like large pool are you in that there's like not accessible ladders? I don't know if that was like a personal experience that person had. I'd like to know, but I always think about that now when we think about like ADHD and death.
Well, I feel like a lot of people though, like they'll be told like only take this on the days that you really need to get something done. And I'll have people come to me from other providers like, oh, well, they told me to skip it on the weekends. And I'm like, I mean, I see the argument on both sides, but like also we're not medicating ADHD to be productivity robots at work, right? Yes, doing things at work well is a good byproduct of medicating ADHD, but like I also want to like engage more with my family and do my chores at home and, you know, get my laundry done on the weekends and shit like that. So like I'm gonna take it on the weekends.
And that might actually help you plan your family road trip and like know where you're going and not take the wrong exit and not crash your car. Because like also when I don't take my meds, I take the wrong exit. I will just be going forever the wrong way. And you know who posted out? My 3-year-old daughter can tell me I go the wrong way. I take the wrong exit. Dude, I literally go the wrong way all the time. And she's like, Mom, it's wrong. And I was like, how do you know? You're 3 and you're faced the wrong way. Your car seat's literally looking the wrong way. And she knows, dude. That's so messed up. But that tells you, like, you need your meds. Not having Addie, that fucks up everything. Favorite, who is, like, the most likely to wear skinny jeans in 2025?
I feel like PCAs, right? Like, they're just still trying to be in the game. And, you know, I mean, sure. There's some good times where skinny jeans may be necessary.
I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie, I still wear skinny jeans. I feel like that's part of like the emo millennial movement where like you just did, and I still feel like I look great in them, and like TikTok tells me it's not true. But I'm vibing with like amitriptyline that it could be okay in 2025.
Maybe. I have all of these like Gen Z, Gen Alphas that come in with their like crew socks and flared jeans, and I've got my little ankle socks and skinny jeans on, and they know. I see them looking. They know. They look straight down. They go, oh, this bitch is a millennial.
You know what's sad is like I literally look at the ankle socks and like the crew socks. The crew socks, I get so much anxiety still because of like the bullying from high school. It's like they have no idea how bad it was. Like you were like the target if you wore crew socks, especially if they were like over your pants.
But yeah, no.
That's like a
absolutely.
Halloween costume back in the day. Like if you wanted to be like the nerd, you'd wear that. Oh my God, my anxiety. Okay. And then we have our last one. I'll let you present.
Okay. Most popular.
Easily medication that everybody comes in, they want it, they think it's going to work, they think it is the solution to all of the problems, and sometimes it is. Adderall. I feel like this is our one that gets a lot of anger from prescribers being like, everybody just wants Adderall. But like sometimes like people take it and it works and that makes sense. And sometimes people just think, like you said, we're supposed to be productivity robots and they're going to be able to get all of this stuff done and complete everything. And yeah, Adderall has pretty much won the party here.
I mean, I think there are reasons it gets stigmatized because of the way that, you know, they get used by college kids, take it in the middle of the night to cram for a test. They don't have ADHD. They look like crackheads just flipping through their textbook, right? However, I think they're the most popular because
Popular.
they work, right?
For a lot of people.
It's something that can be so life-changing for so many people that I ain't mad about it.
With you on it. I feel like total game changer and totally like hard to get, popular. So popular, literally the pharmacies don't have it. Shortages.
Yeah, just
Yep.
hiding in the shadows.
Secretive, like we wanna get to them. They won't let us there.
Too cool for us.
You know, gatekeeping everywhere about it.
No paparazzi.
That's totally it. Most likely to be famous, probably. Also, our homie Addie.
Also, like, everybody's like, oh my God, my therapist said that I should try Vyvanse. Everybody's like way into it. And I'm like, okay.
Yes. Well, I mean, because like therapists, I guess they're having like their life-changing experience being like late diagnosed, being like, wow, this has been such a game changer. And they want to like,
do you know how many therapists I see?
Is it like all like ADHD? It's a lot.
I mean, a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
And like
all, but
depression, anxiety, trauma, pretty much like there's reasons why we're in this field. Yeah. If you want if you are a therapist and you're looking for a prescriber in Arizona, we apparently have a specialist
coming out with me.
coming out. She's got a long wait list. All right. Thanks for tuning in to our superlative episode of Brain Trash from DSM to Dumpster Fire. Hopefully we gave you some insight on some new things. If you have never heard of the post-SSRI sexual dysfunction, might be worth looking at. We'll probably have an episode about that soon too, but hit subscribe, like, leave us a comment, let us know what you thought, and we'll see you guys next week.